What is going on, everyone? This is Eric coming at you from just outside of Hartford, Connecticut. And today, we're going to be discussing the Lou Piniella trade, which occurred back on October 28th, 2002. Now, this was a trade between the Tampa Bay Rays and the Seattle Mariners that essentially saw Lou Piniella, the manager, get traded to the Rays in exchange for a former All-Star outfielder. So, after 2 successful seasons in Seattle, Lou Piniella wanted to return closer to home. He was originally from the Tampa Bay area, and the city's new team, the then Devil Rays, had been struggling for quite some time at that point. Now, Seattle was not actively looking to let Piniella go, but when he openly requested to be traded and Tampa Bay offered an all-star, Seattle accepted the deal. How did this trade work out? We're going to start by looking at the Tampa Bay Rays. So technically speaking, Piniella wasn't officially traded, but he was at the same time, if that makes sense. You can't just openly trade a manager for a player, so that's why the Rays also got a player in return. So anyway, the 2003 season was far from amazing for Piniella, as the team would go 63-99. However, they did see some improvement during the 2004 season, as the club would go on to win a then franchise record 70 games, albeit with 91 losses. Now, 2005 was the beginning of the end for his time in Tampa. During the season, Piniella openly criticized team's management for focusing too much on the future of the team and not on the present, while also not having a competitive payroll. The team would go 67-95 that year, and at this point, tensions with Rays management led to Piniella stepping down. All said and done, he would go 200 and 285 with the Rays, but the team that he was given was not necessarily the best. Now, they also got infielder Antonio Perez. So technically, this trade is connected to the Ken Griffey Jr. trade via Perez. So just got to point that out. It will be linked in the description below. But Perez, he would appear in 48 games for the Rays. He would hit .248 with a pair of homers before he was traded to the LA Dodgers in exchange for second baseman outfielder Jason Romano. Now, Romano would go 1 for 8 in a reserve role for 2 weeks before he was released. So nothing great for that. Now, that officially covers the Rays for right now. So let's look at how the Mariners did. So the Mariners got former All-Star outfielder Randy Winn. And Winn had a strong first season in Seattle. He would hit .295 with 11 homers and 23 stolen bases. He would continue to play well in 2004, as he would hit .286 with 21 stolen bases and 14 home runs. Now through July of 2005, he would hit .275 with 6 homers, but Seattle, not in position to compete, decided let's trade him for a couple players. So they sent him to the Giants in exchange for 2 players, the first of whom is catcher Yorvit Torrealba, and Torrealba would hit .241 with a pair of homers across 41 games in the season as a backup before he was also traded away to the Colorado Rockies in exchange for a reliever named Marcos Carvalho, and Carvalho was traded after failing to make the team out of spring training. He actually gets traded to the Rays, and he's exchanged for another reliever named Jose De La Cruz, and De La Cruz never made it above AAA for the team. So the Mariners also got starting pitcher Jesse Fopper from San Francisco for Randy Winn, and he would spend a year and a half in the minors before he was released. So how'd the secondary teams do? We're going to start with the Rays just to get them out of the way. So they got the reliever Marcos Carvalho, and he didn't do all that much for the team. So, I mean, he spent 1 year in the minors before he was allowed to walk. Nothing great. Secondary teams, we'll start with the San Francisco Giants, just for the heck of it. So, Randy Winn, who they got, had an offensive explosion during his first 2 months in San Francisco. He would hit 14 homers across those 2 months. Now, he did turn into his normal self in the following 06 campaign, as he would hit .262 with 11 homers over the season. Now, the next 2 years were arguably the best of his career, as he hit a combined .303 with 24 homers for the club. However, he would begin to regress heavily in 2009, as he only hit 2 homers, but he did have a respectable .262 average. But after 2009, he was allowed to walk. Next, we have the LA Dodgers, who got infielder Antonio Perez, and Perez would spend the 2004 season in a reserve role, but he stepped up in a platoon role during the 2005 campaign. He would appear in a combined 111 games over 2 years for the Dodgers, hitting .294 with 3 homers and 12 stolen bases before he was traded, but we will not be discussing that trade. Lastly, we have the Colorado Rockies, who got catcher Yorvit Torrealba, Now, Torre Alba would spend 4 years as a serviceable platoon / minor, slightly having the heavier end of a catcher platoon for the Rockies. Over that time, he would hit .258 with 23 homers across 213 games. So now we have the WAR, and this isn't necessarily the most fair trade to do WAR, just because the Rays did get a manager, and managers don't have WAR. But all said and done, the Mariners won the beginning of the trade. The major part of the trade is they got 8.9, whereas the Rays only got a 0.5. But again, it's not fair to compare Lou Piniella because he's a manager, but got to do it. The Dodgers got a 1.2. The Giants got a 12.3, so they officially win this trade. And the Rockies got a 1.3. Hope you guys enjoyed this. This was the Lou Piniella trade. Have a good rest of your day.